Good morning. It is Thursday morning, a beautiful day around the entire state of California into the Pacific Northwest. There's a few clouds, especially down Southern California. You've got some fog, some dense fog advisories, wind advisories, Santa Ana winds down there. Short-lived though, it doesn't look like it's going to be a long-term event. And for most of the coastline, some kind of advisory, surf advisory. There's not any giant surf warnings, not yet, but the swell is big and sizable. And then storm door opens as we go into Sunday. So you'll hear about rain this weekend. Looks like Sunday there'll be some scattered showers from Crescent City south down towards Lompoc and into Ventura. A little bit into LA too, but it should be really light stuff. But that sort of tweaks the door open for a storm series over the next couple of weeks. So the first couple of weeks of March look like the potential is there for some wet weather, which if it wasn't coming, we'd be bumming, right? So it's good to get. This is Firefall. This is the Firefall, Yosemite. This comes off El Cap. It's Horsetail Falls is the falls, and it has to be flowing at the right amount, right? The right amount of water coming off the falls. So that's a hard one to get. And then you got to get the last couple of weeks of February when the sun angle is just right to capture this. And my friend Billy Bergeson's up there. He's been up there a couple of days. They had clouds, and you need the sun, right? So if you have clouds, it's not happening. But he got this shot for me. I think he took it yesterday. And you can see Firefall is interesting for a lot of reasons. But he told me, if you know Billy, if you surf, you know Pee-wee. That's Billy Bergeson. Oops, sorry about that. But isn't that beautiful? Stunning. It doesn't last for a long time. But I asked him, I go, is it really crowded up there? Everybody taking pictures? And he goes, no. He goes, not too bad. He goes, there's not that many. There weren't that many people when he was there. So that was sort of interesting. I thought it'd be packed, right? But the Firefall is interesting to me because my dad, who I grew up in the Yosemite Valley, because I think I mentioned this to you before, but Yosemite, dad was a teacher back in like 1920s and 30s. And they would go when summer break would come around, they would just move. They would move into Yosemite Valley. And not just a few of them, a lot of San Franciscans and probably other folks from around the state who had the ability to take the summer off would move into the valley. Because there are people in the valley. And this is the 1920s through the 30s. And anyway, the Firefall thing, it was the owner of the Glacier Point Lodge started it when he would he would light a giant bonfire for the tourists at the top of the glacier peak, and he would push them over the edge, and then the flames can you imagine? First of all, ecologically, it's like, oh geez, are you kidding me? And I can remember as a kid, because I was up there in the 60s and early 70s, and I can remember there was black, I don't know if there still is there, but there was from the burning wood, right? There was scarring on the granite face. They did it until 1968. I know. I can't believe it lasted that long. Burning embers, just kind of, like Yosemite needs to be prettied up a little bit. It's like, oh my God. But that's a true story. So Firefall, last couple weeks in February, sun angle's got to be just right. It'll be kind of fun to catch for sure. Okay, so let's start with the weather. You can see the inversion. It's a little deeper, right? Remember we talked about this. This is Mount Tamalpais looking south. This is Ocean Beach. This is San Francisco for all intents and purposes. And that kind of looks like a fog layer, more of a haze layer to me, and then some clouds coming in from the south. This is from an atmospheric river that's falling apart. That's why it's cloudy. It's also why it's kind of warm. Even though it's cloudy, it's kind of going to be more mild all day. 70s, low 70s, mid 70s around San Francisco area. And then further south, kind of upper 60s, low 70s, all the way into Southern California. I can put a loop on this. Let's do that because it's fun. And this is the sun coming up. And you see the direction the clouds are coming from? That's right, that's a southerly direction because we're looking essentially south. And so those clouds are coming up. And when I show you the satellite, I think the satellite's next, you'll see those same clouds, but depicted I think it's a water vapor loop we're going to look at. And the swell is still pretty big. We're not seeing that sea haze that we saw yesterday, but I thought that was interesting. Oh, here, let me move this down for you. Here is let me zoom it up a little bit. There it is. And then you can see the clouds, right? See them kind of coming in. And this is an atmospheric river that's split in two that is starting to break the jet stream down and bring us the potential for a wet couple weeks in March. This system out here, the big one right there, that bad boy is pushing swell around it that's like 30, 40 foot. So by Friday, the Hawaiian Islands are expected to get big, big, big. almost as big as a few weeks ago when they had the eddy, when it was giant. This has the potential. So these storms I always talk about, they produce swell. And so there's a lot of activity out there. So even though we're not going to get a direct hit on this one, because a lot of the energy goes further, the swell energy is going to go up into Vancouver Island and up into the west coast of Washington. But we'll still see some residual swell. And it's going to stay pretty decent size around here. So along the coast, these purples, that's small craft advisories. There's your wind, those browns. Remember, browns are wind. You see a bunch of wind all over the place, right down in the Carolinas. And then you see some dense fog here. Dense fog advisory looks like it's been dropped. I think there's a dense fog advisory. We'll check it. It's close up on Southern California. And still some flooding issues, water issues up in Montana. So if I'm traveling today, I'm like, game on. It's an easy travel day. And if I'm not a big traveler, and I'd like to be, but in terms of airport guy, but if you're an airport guy or girl, you're loving that, right? When you see the lack of watches and warnings. Okay, so here are the watches and warnings for Southern California, Long Beach down to Oceanside. That's a dense fog advisory. And then here's the wind. And of course, we've had rain in Southern California, so we're not under the gun, and you're not seeing red flag warnings. You could, but I doubt you will, because fuel moistures are higher, and so it shows you how important it is to get those rains. And then it looks like the surf advisory has been dropped down for Lompoc in those areas. And then this is the San Francisco area. This is a surf watch here, which just means watch out. Like anytime you go to the ocean, watch out anyway, but this is a watch out thing. And that's a small craft advisory. So it's kind of la-di-da. I mean, there's not a lot going on in terms of being, weather headlines. I think the wind advisory in Southern California, but because it's moist, I'm not so worried about fires. Always got to think about it, but it doesn't seem like a real good day for that. So this is Ocean Beach. This is some of that swell. This is all from the storms, that one storm I was showing you. These storms out in the Aleutians produce these swells. And this is, again, it's a close interval. Remember we talked about last night. See, they're crest to crest. See how close together those waves are? It sucks for trying to get out when you're at Ocean Beach, trying to paddle out when it's real close together. A good swell, if you're surfing, you want 15, 18 seconds. So you get these big gaps between the waves. And occasionally you'll see a gap. Like there's a nice little gap here. But the sets are throwing up 13-second intervals. Most of the coast is 7 feet, 13 seconds. This is Santa Cruz, Steamer Lane. This is off the point. And what do you see? Not much. The swell, it's probably 4 to 5 foot down there. Same idea. Tides are dropping, so it'll get better. But it cleans up a little better. This is Pleasure Point. But here again, you can see the close interval. So when someone says 5 feet or 6 feet, 12 seconds, that's what it looks like. Or in this case, this looks like 4 feet, 12 seconds. But you can see the crest to crest. They're really close together. Surfers, you don't really like that because it's easy to get caught inside. This is Pipeline. Their swell is going to jack the next couple of days. So folks out there now, it's early in Hawaii, right? They got a big few hour time bump between here and there. Let's see if this guy goes. Looks like a wave. Okay, kind of. So that's small pipe. And then this is Jalama, tip of Point Conception, right? So this is a great spot. First of all, it's an awesome spot to see whales, because if you know where Point Conception is, I always show it to you. Down, before you get into Santa Barbara, that big point, this is the tip of that point. Used to be private land. It used to be owned by, I think the Bixby Ranch guys owned it, the ranch, the mythical surfing spot. And then Bixby he said, okay, listen, we'll give it to you. We're going to give the state, Jalama State Beach Park, we're going to give it to the state if you guys let us keep this land, that we would keep it. Because Bixby Ranch was interesting because they launched, Vandenberg launches missiles. And Vandenberg was actually paying Press Hodgkiss, who used to own the Bixby Ranch, one of the owners, which is a huge Spanish land grant. The Lompoc was paying the North Ranch people a certain amount of money so that they could keep it not developed, so that they could launch their missiles. Because there's a lot of top secret stuff that goes on up there. Okay, so this is Jalama. I know it's a lot of backstory, huh? I got a few stories about that, which we'll go into someday. Okay, so finally we get to the models. And this is vorticity. So this is the engine. This is the spark that if you have fuel, you're going to get rain. In this case, we got lots of sparking. So here's that guy. But there's not a lot of fuel, and I'm going to show you what I mean in a minute. So this is the Friday. See it? You go, oh, that should be good. maybe some sprinkle down for you guys down in Southern California on Saturday. But the thing is, it cuts off, and right, so it's just, it's kind of a nothing burger. And then as you get into Saturday afternoon, this looks better. But again, that Sunday, there's a spark, an engine, the vorticity, but there's not a lot of fuel, and I'll show you what I mean. But you see the jet stream's in a position, it's delivering sparks. There's another spark. That's on March 7th. And then here comes another spark. That's a real spark, and this one has moisture, I believe, and we'll look at that later too. What I'm getting at is I'm going to show you the water vapor loop, and you're going to see. But see, that's a really progressive pattern. Those troughs keep dipping through, going through. So this is now precipitable water. Here we are. I'll put a loop on it. Blue, just look for blues, right? The browns are, hey, I'm dry as heck. The greens and the blues are, I'm wet as heck. And or the dark greens in blue. And you see, right, so here is, this thing's trying to match up with Sunday, and look what it turns from blue to green. So the water vapor is not all that. This is Sunday morning. So there's not a lot of fuel with the spark. There'll be some scattered showers, but I'm not expecting an inch of rain in Southern California. I'm expecting 1/10 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch for most of us. Now that could change, but you get the idea. We've got a spark. Now we're looking, okay, there's the fuel. See the blue? And then what's it do? Okay, it gets caught up there. This is on March 5th. That looks like a little bit of rain, but still, even then, when you get those big rains like we've been getting, that's when the blues, the high water content, precipitable water is in your zone. So you see the fuel's not really, right? The jet stream's in the right position. So to me, what that means is it's going to be wet on and off for sure to some degree, probably for the next couple of weeks based on that long-range model, the vorticity, the spark and the fuel, the water vapor, but they just don't phase well together. They could, like I could run this model tonight and look at it again, both those models, and they may phase in closer. If the moisture moves a little further north, and that's weather. That's the weather game. So here we are. We're looking at rainfall. You know this map. This is rainfall, and then the lines close together represent wind. And we know that Southern California has a wind advisory, and you see how close those lines are together. That's a Santa Ana wind event, probably breezy up at the higher elevations of Lake Tahoe. And then the winds kind of die down a little bit on Thursday afternoon. And then that's Saturday afternoon. Nice day, cloudy. And then here comes the Sunday thing, right? And you can see kind of Southern California, you're right on the edge, man. Malibu might get a little something, but you get the idea, right? So that's Sunday afternoon. This is Monday morning. Okay, right? So it's not a nothing burger, but it's almost. But again, that's a spark without fuel. At least that's what it appears to be, right? And then here comes almost looks like you got something cut off, and then it just throws off a little of this. Not the spark missed the fuel again, and that is Friday morning, March 7th. And then it gets more aggressive here. Now the water starts to phase in. This is March 9th. This is Sunday, March 9th. That looks pretty decent, right? That's a ways off. And then the progressive pattern. See, now it looks pretty decent. And that looks pretty decent. So I know, I hope I'm not belaboring this too much, but that's sort of, we got the jet stream in the right spot, but I don't think the moisture is going to phase in correctly to bring us big rain, big snow. We'll get stuff, but not biblical stuff like we had been. And that could change. Okay, so here is the accumulation map. You know this map. We show it to you every day. Here, the rain starts to show up. This is Sunday morning, say. So it's hard to read those numbers, but 0.13 down around Monterey. And then LA, you guys get in on it somewhere around Sunday afternoon, 0.10. Marin County's coming in at 1/4 of an inch by Sunday afternoon. And then Monday morning, still not a lot. Now you'll see it start to pile on. Because remember, these are cumulative. So not much. Then we get down around the 7th. And then there comes, see the fuel coming in? And that's boom. So, and that looks like a lot of rain, but the truth is, for Marin County to get 2-3 inches of rain in 10 days, that's not much. It's rain though. It's rain. We're not going to be in a dry pattern, but this is sort of an example of, wow, everything's right, except it's not phasing right. This moisture up here, that subtropical moisture, which is a live camera as of 10 o'clock, it's a live camera. This moisture, if that's not there and the spark shows up, you got nothing. or you got very little. Okay, there it is. It's interesting when you see these alert cams. They do a move where they blur out. I think it's a privacy thing, but it's interesting they blur out the homes because I think they might, it must be a liability thing. Because I guess if they weren't blurred out, like up here in the Panhandle, the park, or the north end of the park, I'm thinking maybe it just, you could see in people's windows, I guess, if you had the right camera. Okay, so this is Palisades, Tahoe. Who knows where we're going to go? Funatel. We got groomers going on. Looks like a heck of a day at Lake Tahoe. Is this the Funatel? I think so. Yeah, it is. Is it? Yeah, it is. There's a guy out there. One of you guys is hilarious. He texts me all the time and go, I love what you do, Bill, but I would love to sit by you when you do the ski cameras and tell you where you are. Because I ski a lot, but sometimes it's hard to tell where you are. I know I'm in Palisades. I just don't know if that's KT. And then the other day I called KT 22. I called it KT 21. You know what KT stands for? I already did this, but it's interesting. Kick turns. So I can't remember like the old Palisades guy that went down, but Billy Hudson was telling me. So he goes, yeah, because KT 22 is probably one of the most famous runs in all of Tahoe. And I go, how'd I get its name? And he goes, well, it was some guy, famous skier I should know. It took him 22 kick turns. And you remember what a kick turn is? I don't think anybody does a kick turn anymore unless you're in deep powder. But it was 22 kick turns to the bottom. I know, simple. This is Sugar Bowl. It is not crowded. The chairlift's running, so we got people going. Wow, beautiful day up there, mountains. It's one of the best things about skiing. This is heavenly. One of the best things about skiing is this. What I always, when I was a little kid, you get on a chairlift and all of a sudden you're at the top of a mountain. And you're looking at stuff that you wouldn't see unless you spent 3 days climbing it. So skiing is magical for, I think, just because it puts you in places that in the winter, which you wouldn't normally be. Beautiful, beautiful day. That is Lake Tahoe. And what's the first thing you notice about Lake Tahoe? Right? See how glassy it is? No wind. I think there should be wind up higher, though. That's interesting because we did see the pressure gradient. I'm looking at the trees now for wind. But, yeah, no wind. That's interesting. I would have guessed there'd be a stronger wind up there. It should be coming. Okay, here's Mount Shasta. The snow looks good. You can see the snow line there. You can see this is from Hammond Ranch, and just beautiful day in the state. And again, this is the part of what I do here is I sort of highlight Southern California to Northern California up into Seattle area and Oregon, because look where you live. I mean, I know it's expensive. I know it's sometimes, and California gets this bad rap sometimes, right? Yeah, it doesn't get bad rap, but people, they throw shade a lot at California for a lot of different reasons, which maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. But either way, I'm going, look around, man. Look where you are. Behold. And whenever I look at this mountain, or I look at the camera down here down in Malibu, this is off Wilshire Boulevard, I just go, well, it's beautiful. It just is. Okay, and then last thing I'll say, I'm rereading, I'm audio booking The King and Queen of Malibu. It's an awesome story. Awesome. Frederick Ringe. I think they started the LA Times, and they owned all this land up here, East Coast guy. But it's probably one of the more interesting stories. Great Southern California history. Here's the fog currently as of about 10 o'clock this morning. And so there were some dense fog advisories down here. That should get cleared off. This, of course, is Point Conception, which I often talk about. This is where Jalama is here at the tip. If you get a chance, go out there. They have an awesome campground out there. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to get reservations because it's way off the beaten path. And then here is the coastal fog, and that looks pretty entrenched. And then the rest of the state looks pretty dry. Longer than I want to go. Oh, tonight's my last night. If you're hanging till the end, which I love you guys. I know there's like 6 or 7 of you guys that hang on to see if I'm gonna, what I'm gonna do, and I appreciate that. But if tell a friend that I'm retiring and I'm not going away, because this is what I'm gonna do. Man, because I love it, and my poor wife has to. If you don't have to hear it, my wife has to hear it, and because I would just be doing this anyway. So it's awesome. All right, it is Thursday. See you tonight on Channel 2, and then after that, I'm a free man, free agent, if you will, and I'm gonna keep doing these. See you back here.